It's Primus Tracks with Josh, Frankie, and Soya.
What a couple of dumb shits. Hello, primates! You found Primus Tracks. Congratulations. I am Josh, right over there. Oh man, two stalwart gents who are always around. Frankie, Soya.
Mr. Bald.
Mr. Bald, good lord. Are your balls shaved bald or what's going on, dude?
Well, those are personal questions that I will not answer on the air, but I am so happy because we have quite a guest today to help us with track 13 from the Brown album, Kalamazoo, and he might answer those kinds of questions. He might actually know the state of my business. We'll see. He managed Primus for 20-odd years, and I am so excited to welcome to Primus Tracks David Smiley Lefkowitz.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey,
Oh,
we've been through some
man.
shit. Let's talk, man. Let's do this.
Great to have you,
Time.
man. And with the magic of podcasting, as they call it, we've actually had a conversation before that our listeners have not heard. They'll hear it after we're done with the Brown album. So we're going to cover lots of ground today, but if it feels like we're jumping ahead, everybody, that's because, well, we've already talked to Dave, so we won't be asking questions about ancient history. Just moderately ancient history.
Depends on what Soya brings up.
Soya has carte blanche.
When the Kalamazoo conversations get tepid, we start talking old stories with Dave.
Old stories with Dave. I think that would be a great segment. We can just throw those in whenever it gets a little awkward. Dave, story.
He's only got about 6, I think.
6. I think it seems like by talking to you or just listening to you guys talk, you have 6 stories for any word. If I just throw a word out there, if I just said pastrami, you guys would just 6 stories. Go.
It comes out, man. Me and Dave have been through the Primus ringer, dude.
Pastrami makes for a good sandwich, as does, let's say, chicken sandwiches.
Oh, the chicken snitch, maybe.
Chicken snitch.
There it is.
You guys know about the snitch?
Don't know about
Josh?
the snitch.
What? Come
what's
on,
the
man.
snitch?
Okay, here we go, you Primus listeners.
Story time with Dave.
When Primus toured Europe for the first time, Tim Alexander didn't understand that speaking English to people in other countries meant nothing to them because they didn't speak English. And so when they would go to truck stops and order food, they would say, "Give me that," or "Give me that." And Tim would say, "No meat, no meat. I don't want meat. No meat." And he'd say it louder, "No meat." And it would be like, "Tim, you can't just say no meat." He doesn't understand. Saying it louder, he doesn't understand. And so then it got to the point where he would say, "I just want chicken. I want a chicken sandwich, chicken sandwich." And so Les, of course, came up with the nickname, the Chicken Snitcher. Order a chicken sandwich was a chicken snitch. So Tim's nickname, Dave, of course, you'll attest, his nickname for a while was the old snitcher, the chicken snitch. Because he had to have the chicken sandwich every time.
Yeah. If you ever meet Josh Freeze, tell him you're friends with the old snitcher.
My favorite thing to text Josh Freeze out of the blue is cup of ice.
Oh, yeah.
Because when I did the slider stuff, we'd be in New York City, and he was in awe that you could go to the deli and get a sandwich, and then you could buy a 50-cent cup of ice out of the freezer where the ice cream was.
Nice.
Like they didn't give you some ice. He's like, "Dude, you got to buy a cup of ice." So me and him have this running 30-year joke. We just text each other randomly, like, "Cup of ice, is it available?"
That's funny. I have a thing with him too that I won't go into the details because it's a long story. But yeah, it's the only thing we ever say to each other for like 25 years. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, there you go, folks. That's story time with Dave. We will have a lot more of those. It's great that you're here, David and Soya. Oh my gosh, I could just let you guys go. But we are talking about the Brown album, track 13, Kalamazoo. We should get into it. Frankie, though, I think you have some miscellaneous debris from last time.
That's right, Josh. Thanks to Chris for pointing out that at Rock Palace in 1997, Brain does a bit of resting bones during his 20 seconds of Brain solo.
At Rock
I have
Palace,
completely forgotten about that.
So does that make 2 Rest in Bones performances of a sort live, and that's it?
2 teases for sure. Yeah.
I think all of the Rock Palace footage that I have seen, I've never seen the drum solo. It's always the Awakening.
Yeah.
There's some awakening in there.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's full on, like it's the full set, and there's like bored German people sitting there watching it, and they're playing the Awakening, and there's smoke going on.
It's crazy.
But
Yes.
I've never seen the drum solo from that performance.
I don't.
Brain
recall it
used to
either.
do that Rest and Bones bit quite a bit in his drum solo back then, you know.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
it's difficult to play that shit,
Yeah.
man. That's a beat and a half, dude.
He brought it a couple times at least that are recorded. And then Frankie, I neglected to mention this earlier. Of course, you can contact us, folks, at Primus Tracks on Instagram and Twitter. You can also email us at primustrackspod@gmail.com. Frankie gave me all three fingers, so I remembered all three. But now there's a fourth. Frankie, you've gone mad.
Yes. Now you guys can also find us at Primus Tracks on Facebook. Community is growing quite a bit. It's really awesome to read your comments, see your reactions.
Mm-hmm.
We're sharing all kinds of cool stuff, random photos, videos of the day, facts. Join us at Primus Tracks on Facebook, please.
Yeah, this is stuff we're not actually putting on Instagram or Twitter, too, so this is pretty great.
Yeah.
And if
So
we can get
if you follow both accounts, you're getting different content on each one.
And if we can get David Lefkowitz in there, maybe he'll tell a story every once in a while on one.
Dave
you go.
Lefkowitz, he like tweets every 5 minutes. It's amazing.
So not true, but I am on the Facebook group.
Oh, right on. So
Did a couple of Instagram posts recently too. There was that Les Claypool post that you guys responded to with Stanley Clark and Stewart, and
Yeah.
that was a crazy picture, man.
I
think I was there. That was on the Wonka tour when Les and Stewart
That's
or
right.
Les and Stanley
Yeah,
played
Tim.
together, right?
LA.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm
Oh,
going to
wow.
tell you guys right now, the most amazing thing was I was standing with Les in the catering area at that theater, was the Orpheum Theater. Back door opens, radio. Okay, sorry, here they come. Stuart Copeland, Stanley Clark, Robert Trujillo from Metallica walks in, who's an old friend of mine through the Jerry Cantrell moment I did with him. So we were all good friends. And he's got the Jocko bass in his hand,
Oh,
you know?
man.
Wow.
It was just like this epic fucking moment. And then it turned into that jam where Stanley came out with one of Les's basses, and they did
Oh
the-
wow. I
they
didn't
did
know.
they did a battle solo on stage at the encore of the Wonka show that night.
Wow, I love Stanley Clark. He's from here in Philly.
Yeah.
Him and Stewart had a band together. I
Right.
want to say like early '90s called Animal Logic.
Yeah, I saw Animal Logic at the Paradiso in Amsterdam.
I saw him at Slim's.
Oh, nice.
I saw him in Amsterdam. It was amazing.
Kind of a pop project, really.
Yeah, it was kind of cheesy, but it was rad. Stanley
Yeah,
did
I
a
like
bass solo with an acoustic bass with the cardboard over the hole so we could rip it.
Oh,
Wow.
neat.
Stanley was also at the Oysterhead show in LA on that 2001 tour. And I just mentioned that to Trey and the whole band when I saw him, a few weeks ago. And Trey was so bummed that he didn't get to meet Stanley Clark. He's like, I never get to meet anybody at these shows. Trevor Horn was also at that LA show.
Oh,
Who was
cool.
friends with Stewart's manager. And then Trey wasn't sure if I meant Trevor Rabin or Trevor Horn. So there was a whole conversation. But by the way, Trujillo, produced the definitive documentary film on Jaco Pastorius.
Of course, that's why he showed up with the bass.
Yeah.
He was getting it signed to auction off for monies to promote the family,
Oh, wow. Yeah. I
Yeah,
actually
he got the
met
funding
Jaco-
for the film.
I met Jaco's son, Felix, through Jay Lane at a
Oh, wow.
gig that I promoted here in Philly with Oteil Burbridge, another great bass player, who was in that photo with Oysterhead last month. So Felix was just in town and came to hang out with Jay Lane.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, this more stories. I have to actually facilitate this one.
Sorry, Josh, I brought Lefkowitz in. Me and him are old guard, dude. We're gonna
I'm
start
telling
talking.
you guys just need your own podcast. I'd listen to it too. Let's bring it back to Kalamazoo. Speaking of shows and backstage and running around, do we have a live history on this one, Frankie?
Yes, Josh, and it is quite peculiar.
Ah,
So Kalamazoo was performed quite a bit throughout 1997 and 1998, and surprisingly, it survived all the way onto the anti-pop era. throughout 1999 and a few performances in 2000. So out of all those tracks on the Brown album, it's curious that Kalamazoo would survive to the next era.
Yeah.
And then it disappeared for a decade until it was resuscitated by Jay Lane for select performances in 2010. Now, there's one thing that really stands out about the live history of Kalamazoo, Josh. Out of the 60 times the song was performed live, it was only performed once in Kalamazoo.
Oh, Kalamazoo, Michigan, yeah.
I was
That's
there,
right.
maybe. I don't know. What year was that, Frankie? Was it on
Yeah,
the...
that was 1997, November
I was there.
1997 at the
That
State
was on the
Theater.
Brown tour then.
Yeah. I remember, too, they played, well, of course, they played Kalamazoo numerous times, and I do remember Les at some point saying that they didn't play Kalamazoo one time in Kalamazoo because it would be too obvious. But apparently he violated his own rule once.
Every time you go to Alabama City and everyone plays, let's do Sweet Home Alabama.
Oh, gosh.
And then you go to Oklahoma and they play whatever that fucking dumb song is, Tulsa Town or...
And every cheap blues band playing Sweet Home Chicago, sure.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's like so many bands. Like, it's like you go to Tokyo and like bands like, oh, this is the first song on our new album, ha ha ha. And it's like they don't want to hear that anymore. They're over it, dude.
Yeah.
The joke has been done and played by 10 zillion bands, man. So
Right.
I think Les knew when you get to Kalamazoo and you wrote a song with Kalamazoo in it. All right, we'll play it, but it's not about us taking the piss out of your town.
Right. Okay. Well, this one also has an interesting footnote to it. Our pal Anthony, who was at the Videoplasty taping at the Phoenix Theater in Petaluma back in 1998. Soya, you were there.
I was teching for every dude on.
Were you there that night, Dave?
Phoenix Theater. Oh yeah, every show that ever happened there.
Remember that one with we had the 60s lighting guys doing all the acid oil lights and the video thing that night?
Yeah, was that the Brotherhood Light group?
Yeah, something like that. It was one of the famous old dudes Les brought in.
Ah,
wow, that's cool.
I guess there was a bit of a snafu, as Anthony told us, because he attended that taping. Les messed up the first verse of Kalamazoo, so they had to restart it, considering that they were rolling tape for Videoplasty. So that's the second attempt at Kalamazoo that you're seeing on your Videoplasty VHS.
So in other words, the song was actually performed 60 and a half times.
Yes, add a 1/2 to that, Frankie.
Total in its career of a song.
Right. Now, Frankie, you mentioned that we got it in 2010 with Jay Lane, but nothing after that. 11, 12, 13.
Nothing. It vanished from the set list completely.
Wow. Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit because to me it does seem like a Jay Lane type song. Well, let's get into the music. We've all of us have listened to the track here, so I think I'm making a claim here, and hopefully you guys can back me up on this. To me, this tune is a mashup of two swing legends, and I'm thinking of Benny Goodman's Sing, 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 and, of course, the Glenn Miller Orchestra and their I've Got a Gal in Kalamazoo song. So musically, there's a lot of sing, sing, sing to me, and lyrically, of course, that lyrical format, Les cribbed for himself for this one.
I'm going to correct you big time right here. Sing, Sing, Sing is a Louis Prima song.
Okay. Oh, but Benny Goodman probably made it famous then.
Everybody played that song.
Okay. I've only heard the Benny Goodman.
And who did the Kalamazoo Zoo Zoo one?
Glenn Miller Orchestra.
Because I think Kehoe sang that with Brain on drums in the Johnny Moon and the Lunatics.
Probably. They might have done Sing, Sing, Sing as well. I never saw Johnny Moon.
I have a CD.
Oh, nice.
Live recording.
Frankie will pay you $8,000 for that CD.
To come back to this, I'm going to play the first portion of Sing, Sing, Sing because if we listen to the drum part, I believe that there's some similarity there. But also with that first musical chorus with the horns and the woodwinds, when I listen to the woodwinds, I think I hear where Lur might have gotten some ideas. Maybe. So I'm just going to play the first few seconds of this tune here. And I believe this is the Benny Goodman version. I think this is Benny Goodman. Sorry, Soya.
I just want to be sure I know what I'm hearing. standard stuff, man.
Yep. So I hear it in there. It's not exact, but I hear it. And then when we get to the horns, listen to those woodwinds.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hearing it in there. I don't know about you guys.
Totally.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I would say that Les might have heard that song and it inspired him to take that facet of sound and create the foundation of Kalamazoo, his song. Yeah. Dave, right? I mean, you hear that, right?
Yeah, totally. And it's such a classic, too, that everybody knows that song, at least our generation.
I think a lot of people know this song, but they don't know the name. It's one that people will recognize, but may not be able to put a name to it.
And a lot of people think that somebody else wrote it.
I did for a second.
Right.
Corrected. No, I know a lot of these jazz songs get written by somebody and then performed by 400 different bands, and then the famous version is the one everybody knows, so they attribute it to the performers. So
right on.
It's easy to get tripped up that way. So those woodwinds in there, I don't know if Larry had listened to it too, but we had talked about Saber Dance, that classical piece where Larry had borrowed some stuff for The Return of Southington Willoughby, the opening track to the Brown album. And it just sounds like this might have been one of those records that Larry was listening to and went, hey, I could do something with that, messing around like that.
I think so. I mean, Larry always tries to bring in the oddball into what talent he already has, and not be just another dude, We all know that. I mean, even though he's got that Jerry Garcia vibe, is like 50% of his vibe, But me and him had always such great times traveling around, going to thrift stores and buying vinyl of crappy, weird shit and goofball shit. We loved it, He's the same dude that, like me, that just loves something out of the ordinary, And that's kind of where he is as a guitar player. And to bring in like Saber Dance, or even to listen to that Louis Prima Sing, 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 or hear how anybody else interpreted it, he's going to bring in something to interpret it, his own version with that influence.
No, that makes sense. And David, I'm curious because you're managing them, so you're not in the room when they're recording. But when you hear, and you have this broad musical palette of your own, so when you hear a track like this, or any other Primus track for that matter, first of all, we've talked a lot about Lurland, and we don't know where Lur comes up with half of this stuff. That's the great mystery, and it's a beautiful thing. But are you hearing some influences? Because you've known these guys for years, and you were there when they were getting started.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys have discussed this at length through the other tracks on the Brown album, but, the biggest thing to me that sets this song apart from a lot of the Primus catalog, as with a lot of this record, is the entry of Brain, which is just such a different playing style from Tim, for starters. So I hear a lot of the Brain signature, techniques and stuff that he plays over time. But then obviously recorded, through this very non-traditional way of recording drums that, are so crucial to the overall Brown album sound.
Right. And Soya, of course, you were there, but I'm curious, did it start with that drum lick at the beginning? Because it sounds like...
I've been thinking about all these episodes we've been doing and talking about this record, and we get to these songs that were not hits or videos or prominent songs in the set lists over the years. And it's like, we get to this point where it's like, what was the inspiration? And, I never even thought about Sing, Sing, Sing or what you were coming up with today, Josh. And now that actually makes sense. It's like, but at the same time, I think, that's it. Les had a moment with a song, and then he made a song. It's like, come on, where? And it's A, B, A, B, A, B, end.
Yep.
Or maybe there's a solo. It's like, come on, motherfuckers.
It's interesting because I don't recall ever thinking that Les was influenced in a song by anything remotely jazz.
Right.
But Brain was very influenced by all those old school jazz drummers.
Brain would know this.
Yeah. And the fact is, I mean, I feel like Les's appreciation of American popular music goes deep enough to go back to the swing era, not anything that he would ever have played or been influenced to play.
Yeah, but Les might have tapped Brain for what Brain's drum knowledge was to find a new outlet to songwriting for this record. Like, Brain, I'm tired of writing funky metal bullshit. What do you got? I know you studied jazz. I know you did this. I know you did that. What do you got? And Brain might have went, well, dude, what about this? And Les went, okay, there's a song.
Could have been.
Of all 15 tracks, this is the one that just feels like it's got a very particular influence to it, and they ran with it, whereas the other 14, it's Primus being Primus for the most part. So this one, it just feels like, hey, we're going to try this. We're going to try this swing thing, and it definitely sounds like they made it their own, especially with that bass line, and of course, Larry putting things on top of it. I do want to talk about the drums in particular. We get that intro part, and it's there at the outro again. But in between, Brain's doing some really cool hi-hat work, and I've said it a million times, and it's how music works, especially drumming. But when he goes to the ride, I'm feeling it, and this song grooves pretty well for me. It's a lot of fun. I know it's not everybody's favorite, but I go to it every once in a while. It's got a great drum groove.
The fact that Kehoe and Brain and Merv, we're all in this Johnny Moon project, which is a cover band of, the jump swing stuff, Louis Jordan and Louis Prima and all that stuff.
Yep.
It's hard for me to like nail down exactly when most of those shows happened. Probably years before this.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that was like 89, 90, Johnny Moon.
Yeah, I remember going to a show at the I-Beam when there was literally not a single person in the audience. I mean, like, I brought like 3 friends, and I think we were the only people in a 700 capacity club. But that wasn't typically the case. But I'm just trying to think like what era that might have been. It might have been early 90s, but I don't know if that was fresh in Brain's mind for some reason. Like maybe he was warming up one day, playing some beats from that project specifically, and that Les kind of caught on to it. I don't know.
I kind of feel like Les picked Brain's brain, mind you,
right,
to find new outlets to work to take Primus and Les's bass playing and how to make a song that was Primus related based on where Brain came from. I think Les might have really tried to like say, come on, Brain, let's get to where your deep soul is in drumming. And he knew that Brain really has an affinity for those old jazz drummers, Louis Bellson.
Yeah. Well, here's another funny thing. Buddy Rich played a part in an early Limbo Maniacs demo tape because there was a very famous recording of Buddy Rich screaming at his band members.
Oh,
the fucking clams, dude.
Yeah. Get off my band and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Why am I paying you guys? You're a bunch of fucking clams. I should call the band the fucking clams because y'all suck.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it was Merv did an impression of that on a Limbo demo tape, which I got to have, somewhere as well. So again, it was just another, granted it wasn't specifically Buddy Rich's playing style that made an appearance as much as
it's an influence though that the attitude was that right there, like Buddy Rich being an asshole and the Limbos getting that, that segued into the attitude of the Limbos and their asshole, funky, fuck off attitude. Like we're great. Fuck all you all, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting to talk to Brain and ask him if you ever want to about his sort of schooling, in the drums and what he went through as a student, to become the drummer that he became. I'm pretty sure that there was some pretty strict, old school, traditional stuff in the schooling, process. I mean, Soya being a drummer, I'm sure you know a lot more than I do about, what's involved in rudiments and, but I'm pretty sure
that to the nth, dude. That's why he's Brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was very schooled. I know that, and I don't remember specifically. Obviously, there's the traditional grip or whatever.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Is it the left hand is different?
yeah. It's the underhand, overhand on one of the.
Yeah, and I almost kind of remember Brain saying something about like that's the way he had to play to learn from a certain teacher, for a while. I mean, that's obviously comes from that old school jazz kind of stuff. An integral part of Brain's brain, as you said.
Well, I think it's important that what you're saying and what we've all acknowledged now about this track, Josh, is that Brain brought that vibe into this song, and maybe Les asked him, "Come on, dude, give us some of that shit."
Yeah.
I can't remember how they wrote the song,
Right. Well,
where it came from, but I think you're right, Dave. It stems from all those influences of where Brain came from, and that's why this is so jazzy like that,
It does feel like something that Brain brought, because Les's bass line is fairly atypical in this track. So I do think he was plumbing the depths, and Brain brought this, and he said, all right, I'm going to try, and Les said, I'm going to try this thing, because we get that thumping intro, which sounds like something Les would do, but we get kind of a walking bass line with some rapid finger picking as well. So it's also on the fretted 6, which, as we all know, is everybody's favorite. So it's just got that big, deep, rumbly, tumbly sound that we all love. So
Cop out.
Hey, hold on.
Leaning on the 6.
You think that there's any sort of relevance to this song with regards to Tom Waits? Is there something at the beginning of the song that maybe the rumble or something, or the kind of the noisier element that sounds like something Tom Waits has done?
That's a good question.
Struck me when we were listening.
I mean, you know, Dave, better than I do probably, how influenced Les is by Tom Waits,
People would probably be surprised at how much of an influence it is, because you don't necessarily hear it on the surface of Primus. But like, I remember kind of in the early 90s, Les being asked like who some of his biggest influences were, and he would say Tom Waits, which is just, you don't necessarily hear
Nobody
that a lot.
who listened to Primus in the 90s knew who Tom Waits was, that knew who
Exactly.
Primus was.
Talk about a guy who is steeped in like every era of American popular music, going back to probably like the Prohibition era, and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of stuff, and European music actually as well. Think about some of that Brecht and some of that stuff that he's into. But yeah, I don't know.
I would say that you're correct, Dave. Like, I think there's a lot of Tom Waits influence then on this song.
Yeah, lyrically for sure.
I can't think of like the big band Tom Waits thing. Like that
Big
might
Time.
show up.
The album Big Time.
Yeah, which was recorded at the Warfield, actually.
It was? Oh, man, that album's awesome.
Yeah. The whole film was filmed at the Warfield, which was the venue I promoted and chosen for 9 years.
Dude, Swordfish, Trombones, and Rain Dogs are my faves, man. Those early stuff.
I'll tell you what, I was one of those kids, Soya, because when I saw the name Tom Waits, first heard Tommy the Cat, all that, I had no idea. And then it may have been Rain Dogs. That was the first Tom Waits I heard. And I remember going, how? This doesn't compute. How is this an influence on Les? I'm not, and like you said, I wasn't hearing it, especially in those first few records. So it really started to come out, I think, in the Brown album, and then really in his solo work, Les's solo work. We got some.
I mean, it's an obvious reaching for somewhere else to go with what you can do with music.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when Frank came in, and with Kalamazoo, him doing whatever this jazzbo, drum stuff, Les might have inspired that. Say, come on, dude, give me some of that shit, dude. It's cool.
And there's definitely a lot of exploration rhythmically, I think, on Holy Mackerel, where you're suddenly like, we're not in Primus land anymore, Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's the same with the Sausage record, Like Les brought a lot of those old Primus tunes that were not brought into Primus post thing, and that's what that record was. We know that,
Yeah. But wouldn't you say that the Sausage record not that it's uniform, but it's very cohesive. It's like it sounds like one particular thing, the whole album.
Right,
like every song's unique, but like that's that band, right?
Right.
Whereas Holy Mackerel is really like a hodgepodge of a lot of different stuff, right?
It was trippy to make that record with Les. I mean, he did most of it himself, and he brought me in for, I would say, a third of it, of helping, and I did all the mixing down. But I'm saying the recording issue end of it, like I would show up at his house and he'd have like 3 songs tracked where he'd have played the drums and the bass and the guitar and the vocals and go, help me mix this real quick, dude, because I don't want to sit here and fuck with the knobs. Like, oh, wow. Oh, this is cool, dude. Merv's coming up tomorrow, lay a guitar track down. It's like, oh, fuck, Granny's little yard dome. Oh, this would be cool. But, it was a definite moment where I felt Les had his first departure from Primus,
Right, because Sausage wasn't thing that Primus, but it wasn't as much of a departure.
It was a rehash of, I really want to do this stuff, and I don't want to have Lur and Brain, or Lur and Herb, be the dudes that are this, because this is way predates both those guys,
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what that Sausage record was,
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas Holy Mackerel became a complete, wow, Les is on his own plane, up at his house, doing his own thing, playing all the instruments. Okay, cool. But so
Being a goof,
to tie this into what you were saying, Dave, about Kalamazoo version of or not version, but era of a song, you're like looking for something, man. You got to find other outlets. You can't just keep making Herald of the Rocks in 1988,
Right. And let's just throw this out there. I mean, the Brown album was the first Primus record that sold less than its predecessor.
Ouch.
Yeah. I mean, take it out if you want. But I mean, I think we talked about this before, but like the drummer changed, the sound changed.
Yep.
Les was trying out all these new ideas. And, as an artist, you have to do that at times.
Yeah.
It's you're an artist. You're trying to like explore your creative different avenues and ways of expression. And you can get stale doing the same stuff over and over again. So and some things work, some things don't, and then you move on and try it again.
Yeah.
Somehow David Bowie managed to create different avenues of character for decades, and nobody cared. They loved every second of it. When the Brown album came out, everybody turned the right cheek and went the other way.
Yeah.
And waited for the next Jerry Was a Race Car Driver.
It's the magic of David Bowie.
Bowie.
As amazing as those 3 albums that Bowie did are with Brian Eno in Berlin or whatever.
Yeah.
I bet you those didn't sell that great back in the day.
Yeah, he faced a lot of resistance actually from the record label to put the first one out.
Yeah.
See what you did.
Which was which one? Lodger or something? Or
Low. Yeah, Low was the first one.
Low. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's talk about Kalamazoo again. We're on Kalamazoo. Josh, where are we at?
That was your Bowie minute. You got that.
Yes.
Fantastic.
You got about 20 seconds, Frankie.
Good.
Wow.
20 seconds of Bowie.
That was great. What we'll do is we'll do 27 seconds of Bowie. So you get to be Brain on drums and just talk about Bowie, and I'll cue you out.
And the Soya police will not be here.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't on that record.
Speaking of doing something different, it seems like Larry does something different every time. And I do want to play his solo because there's a couple of things going on there. This is, I think, one of the more rewarding solos he does on this record. Pause. I'm going to go right those first 3 notes. Soya, do you know what that sound is? That's the sound your GPS makes when you've arrived at Lurland. Okay? Like that little arrival.
That like have you found that on other songs?
No, I just think that's it. That's the sound.
I thought you were saying like a lot of Lur solos you could hear whippity-lit, and then he goes into the solo.
I just think of all the sounds he's made over the course of his life. That should be the ding, Here we are. We're in Lurland.
Because
It's just like that, yeah.
It jams over.
So that little punch in there with Lur on the solo, and then it just goes places. So we'll listen to the whole thing. Why not? For most of that solo, it sounds like he's wrestling a marlin. It's just
sounds like he's not in the other room. He's like down by the lake where we fish.
He's way out there. Absolutely.
He's way off in the distance. What the hell?
It's such a great groove.
Dave, how did you approve that? Why didn't you call me and say, get Lur more in the forefront on that solo?
Oh, man.
Always had full artistic control, Tim. You know that.
There you go.
Tom Wally had your hands strapped behind your back or something on that one.
Well, the groove under it is wonderful. The Les moves up a step or two, and he's doing the thing, and then Brain opens it up with the ride, and it is a really cool groove, and then Larry just lays that on top, and I really love that portion of the tune. Because like I said, it does sound like he's digging around in the ground or something, or hands underwater wrestling with a fish, and then he kind of brings it back up near the end there. It's so Lur.
There's kind of an interesting point towards the end where Les and Lur are doing kind of a rhythmic thing in unison, which is pretty unusual. And it's like, you wonder, like, how did that happen? Because typically the guitar would be added after the bass and drums, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
So I guess Lur conformed his solo to that quick little like rhythmic turn that Les took or whatever.
Oh, the chromatic dissension. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, as we've dissected in the last couple songs before you're on this episode, Lur made that shit up when we were recording the solo.
That's so crazy.
Sure.
You know, he did not go home with the tapes and go, okay, let's make a solo. Like, he went home and dealt with his bullshit. Like, okay, got to drive back up there. Okay, dude, we need the solo for Kalamazoo today. Ah, fuck, I didn't even listen to it. Okay, play it. And Les would leave the room, and me and Lur would sit there for like an hour. He'd just go, whip up, do Lurland. Till he was like, okay, that's it, done. All right, dude, are you cool? Les would come out and go, that's awesome, dude, killer. All right, next, let's go on the next song. It's like, all right, there was no.
That's Lurland, though. That's the swing.
Well, which is so cool. What I'm saying, which is so cool about it, is everybody tries to break it down as how is he finding these notes in this moment and here and there. He just whipped that shit out, dude.
He's got this unique connection to his guitar, and Dave, you're a guitar player, so I don't know what's your take on what Larry does, man. I mean, like we've talked to a lot of guitar players who go, I don't know. We don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't possibly put it into words for you. I mean, yeah. It's its own thing, you know. And I mean, obviously, you know, he's got really eclectic influences as well, both technically and, you know, in terms of his interest in different kinds of music. And then, you know, I'm sure you guys have beaten this into the ground, but it's like he's got to find those spaces in the song where Les isn't already filling stuff up. Yeah. And that just kind of angular approach to reality is, you know, just sends you off on a tangent that,
well, it's been his reality for 30 years as a guitar player in that band, you know?
Yeah.
And all these songs, even building up to the Brown album, like now we're finding where Lurland is like really foundating itself, where he's like, Les is like, okay, A, B, done. Do a guitar solo where you want to do a solo. And like Les would leave and I'd sit there with Lur and hit record, rewind. And Lur would just go until he decided, all right, let's come listen to it, you know? Let's go, all right, that's great, cool, you know?
Yeah, wow.
There was no structured thought to the solo. I mean, it was really organically created, which is cool. I mean, it was the start of that for Primus.
Let's talk about the lyrics. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. We're borrowing from Glenn Miller and his orchestra. I don't know who wrote the lyrics to this. Soya, sorry. I want to make sure I get it right. But I'm going to play a bit from I've Got a Girl in Kalamazoo so we can hear the lyrical pattern that Les borrowed from.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I got a gal in Kalamazoo. Don't want to boast, but I know she's the toast of Kalamazoo. Zoo, 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 zoo.
So really just that lyrical structure, because I don't hear a lot of zoo, zoo, zoo.
I'm actually going to claim plagiarism on this one. Oh, wait.
He's got a
statute of limitations. That song's from the 20s. So
you might have a case.
Clear.
So,
50 years, Dave. What is it? 50?
Yeah, I think it changes depending on when it started, but I forget.
But it's like 50 years if it's some old song, right?
Yeah.
Generally. Okay. Well, I think just using that conceit of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I don't think that's enough to constitute plagiarism, but I'm not.
No, you're not allowed to use the alphabet in a song unless you pay that band royalties. Dude.
There you go. They copyrighted the first third of it. You guys are screwed. So,
like I say, Josh, I think that Les was listening to that type of musics and that songs and knew that Brain knew about those structures of music with his studies and said, let's do this.
Yeah.
Like this as a trial, and it came into what was Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
What do you remember when swing kind of had this huge comeback?
It was right around this time.
Yeah. Remember Bimbos?
The big swing comeback came when it started with David Lee Roth stole Louis Prima. I Ain't Got Nobody.
Yeah.
Just a Gigolo.
Yeah.
David Lee Roth did not credit Louis Prima or Keely Smith for that song on that record. Stole it.
Really?
So that happened, and then Brian Setzer broke up the
Stray Cats,
and then Brian Setzer Orchestra started, and right at that exact same moment, Joe Jackson did the swing album, the Five His Name Mo and all that,
Yeah, Joe Jackson's Jump and Jive. It's such a
Jump
good
and
record.
Jive, right? Yeah. And so that's like early '90s, right? And
I feel like Jump and Jive might have been 85-ish.
Could have, because Steppin' Out was 86, 87, and Jump and Jive came out after that, I thought.
Well, yeah, I think Steppin' Out was more like 83, 4, something like that.
Which I heard today on the radio, ironically, that you say that. Oh, wow. So cheesy, that song.
But then there were these new bands like Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, and there was a...
Right on. That was more like early or late 90s is when those guys really started getting going.
Could that have already started to the point where people were talking about Louis Prima and Louis Jordan, as huge influences to where maybe that got less to pay more attention to it in that moment,
Well, dude, I mean, this Brown album shit is 97, dude. Big Bad Voodoo Daddy and all that later stuff is way after that. That's in the 2000s.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I seem to think it was when I was in high school in the late 90s there. Right around this time is when it started getting radio play again.
Well, then Les, as the genius he is, predated everybody's jump on something that paid, and he preempted it and didn't get paid,
Yeah. There's an amazing club in San Francisco at North Beach called Bimbo's 365 Club. We actually did the Prawn Song Records party there for the Gavin with the t-shirts that said Prawn Song Gavin Exploitation Party. But it had been around since Prohibition, and so when the swing thing was happening, every weekend for a couple of years you could find one of these bands, some of which were, I think, mainly local or regional acts that weren't as big as like a Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. Remember, there's this guy called Lee Presson and the Nails.
Right on.
Something like that.
I never saw him, but I see his name on every paper,
Yeah. And I went in there one night just to check it out. It was a lot of like upright basses and everybody wearing the clothes in the audience from the 30s or 40s.
The suits and all that shit.
Yeah. It was like to the nines. It was crazy.
Yeah, that got big late 90s for sure. But I'm sure it was out in California where it was starting to gain momentum again, and then it got to the national spotlight. So I'm sure Les would have been hip to it, or anybody in the Bay Area would have been.
Well, of course. I mean, Les was had his finger on the pulse of everything around the Bay Area, always,
Yeah.
Even though he was busy with Primus, he always knew or tried to know what was going on in the Bay Area scene,
I was going to say, think about, that upright bass was such a big thing in that music, right? And like, when did Les play upright bass live? Certainly in Bobcock and the Yellow Sock.
Mm-hmm.
But never with Primus.
No. But I remember his bass was autographed by
Tom Waits.
Was it?
Yep, on the back says it's big. He wrote it really big, Tom Waits. He said something, "Hey Les,
really?
Tom Waits," or something stupid.
Yeah, and then Screamin' Jay Hawkins.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Who's in that great Jim Jarmusch movie Mystery Train.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Les was really into Screamin' Jay Hawkins at one point. Yeah. But that feels like earlier 90s to me, because the Bob Cox shows were
early 90s.
Yeah.
That was when Tim was in the band. That was before Jay. That came out after Tim and Lur came in. Bob Cock and the Yellow Sock.
Well, they must have reprised it like a little bit later after Lur and Tim were in the band. Maybe those weren't like the main shows, but
yeah, they did it during they did a couple of his shows during the Seas of Cheese era.
Yeah, because that's on Cheesy Home Video.
Oh yes, there's some.
There might be a clip. That might be from the DNA Lounge, actually.
Yeah,
I think it's on
definitely
there.
DNA Lounge.
Yeah, and when they played Roskilde in 1991, they did an interview, and they play John the Fisherman backstage, and it's actually the Yellow Sock arrangement.
Wow, that's really cool. I got to hear that. I'll tell you one Bob Cock and the Yellow Sock disaster story real quick.
Yes.
Which was that it was such an inside joke, hey, we're the Yellow Sock, Bob will be out in a minute, and then Adam Gates comes out as Bob Cock, and he's like this drugged out Vegas lounge guy or whatever,
Loved it. Loved it.
And like, those shows were great because they were Bob Cock and the Yellow Sock shows. Like, the same way the Limbos had all these alter egos, this was a rare one for Primus. They had an alter ego, and it was jazzy, swingy versions of the classic Primus song, the most classic songs, right? Well, and it's kind of an inside joke. Like, you don't want to like play in front of like a Primus crowd somewhere, that's a huge venue, and be like, hey, here's our inside joke that you have no idea what we're talking about. We're going to play like the worst version of the song you ever heard if you like Primus. Well, take that to like, 10 times what I just said. Here's what happened. So, radio stations would do these kind of like holiday events where they get all these huge bands that they play on that
acoustic
station.
Christmas.
Right. Yeah. So, in particular, my world and Primus's world was a lot about the alternative or modern rock radio format. We had Live 105 in the Bay Area, and K-Rock was like as influential of a station in that format as there was in the entire country. But, we had Interscope behind us, certainly, whatever album it was. And they're like, guess what? We're going to get you guys on, K-Rock's Acoustic Christmas, which was like that big show. And what happens is you don't really get paid. They might cover some of your expenses, or the label covers some of your expenses. And you get a lot of airplay from the station in exchange. It's like one of the things. And it still goes on, I'm sure, today.
Yeah.
But they decide they're going to do this whole show as Bob Cock and the Yellow Sock.
Yeah. And when Jerry was a race car driver was the big hit on the radio and MTV at the time.
And it's not even a Primus crowd. Yeah.
Right.
It's K-Rock, which is like, the most mainstream alternative, which is maybe an oxymoron, but and it's like the lowest common denominator audience for every type of band that station will play. And Primus is a total outsider on that station to begin with. So even if they played Jerry Was a Race Car Driver, I'm going to say that like 1/7 of the crowd would would have clapped. You know what I mean? So then they come in and they do this other thing that nobody has any idea what's going on. And I remember Angelo Moore from Fishbone comes on and plays sax,
right?
Which is good because saxophone's kind of part of that, genre. And people know Fishbone in LA. Maybe they were on the bill. But then when Bob comes out, I mean, the whole thing went completely off the rails. They were probably broadcasting it live on the air. I'm not sure, but it was just the biggest disaster I can remember.
Man, Dave, I'm so glad I wasn't on the crew on that one, dude.
Yeah, that was the one they said they weren't invited back after that. And
I definitely have a cassette recording of that whole show.
Oh, wow. Do you have
Frankie? You got that one?
Yeah, I've never heard it. I've never heard that one.
Dave, you need $2,000 quick. Frankie will give you money.
Go. You can it's probably a great recording because you probably hear the crowd chanting, "We want warrant! We want warrant!" Because
no, that time, yeah, that was actually just before the hairball died.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Around cherry pie.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean, I could definitely try to transfer some of this stuff to digital at some point. I'm sure I should. So someday we'll do that.
Nice. Well, these lyrics, it's funny because we listened to that little clip from Glenn Miller. These people, Frankie, definitely not the toast of Kalamazoo, based on what Les is telling us about them, right?
Oh, no.
But you, interestingly, and I'll plug the Facebook page, why not? On the Facebook page, you had a visceral reaction to a particular lyric in this tune.
Yes, so Jaron said, great song, except for the line, where's her toenails long? For some reason, that one makes me physically uncomfortable.
But yeah, these characters, I mean, not all of them unsavory. We have a guy who doesn't believe in paying rent. That's pretty cool, I'm squirrel away every goddamn cent in my own damn house in Kalamazoo.
Yeah, Joey Clark pointed that out. He says it's a life lesson.
Oh, sure, yeah, because when you pay rent, you're not actually building anything, if you like playing the capitalism game where, come on, guys, let's face it, we're all radical socialists here. But the idea that that this guy wants to play the game the right way, right? Own his own house, build equity, blah, blah, blah. Soya knows all about that. He's going to give us some economics lessons here soon. But we also get the guy who mangles his hand and opens a hot dog stand. And I've said this before, Les references wine a bajillion times in his lyrics.
Prophetic.
This one also prophetic. He opens a winery and he opens a hot dog stand when he's sitting around bored. So,
dude, those are his dreams in the back of his head when he's trying to sell records. And all of a sudden he's not selling records anymore, but he's got a winery and a hot dog stand. So,
did he talk about the hot dog stand to you guys?
No, never.
Oh, darn.
Never.
I brought it. I haven't really talked to him in a few years before. I just saw him last month, or earlier this month, I should say. But I asked Cheney at some point, I'm like, what's the deal with the hot dog stand? And like straight up, I'm like, is this just a joke? And it's like, no, he's always wanted to do it. He was on, Facebook or Marketplace, looking for hot dog stands. And one day there it was, and I guess they had to have food in order to sell, the wine for people to drink outside.
In the patio or whatever the fuck. Yeah. I mean, it was like a handshake.
Right.
Okay, I'm getting the wiener fucking cart, dude. I'm gonna find it.
Right.
And he found the exact wiener cart he always wanted in his dreams. It's amazing, dude.
It's incredible. Dreams do come true.
Well, here's hoping he clears $50,000 on that hot dog stand and keeps it going.
Gotta sell a lot of wieners to make $50,000, dude.
By the way, if you do go to Wamola Wieners, listeners of Primus Tracks, do not order your dog with ketchup. You will be roundly booed.
They don't even have ketchup there.
Soya, what town is that in?
That's in Sebastopol.
That's what I was thinking. Because Dee's Diner was in Sebastopol too, wasn't it?
It is too. Yes, correct. It's right down the street.
Which was on the Purple Onion record, right?
That's correct.
And I've seen Tom Waits say that Purple Onion is one of his top 10 albums of all time. Like you can find that.
That's in some
and that's because he's from Sonoma County, or he lives in Sonoma County. Well, in part, he just loves that there is a song about Dee's Diner because he's probably very familiar with it.
Yeah,
I've been to Dee's Diner with Les.
There you go.
Right. That'd be pretty.
And he's like, "Soy, you got to get the burg at Dee's Diner." I was
chow
like,
that burg.
All right. We chowed the burg at Dee's Diner.
other than the Glenn Miller conceit and these scruffy characters and just a couple of pieces in there, the lyrics not crazy memorable for me, but there are those little things with the hot dog stand and the goddamn rent, which is fun to say. It's just a great phrase, the goddamn rent, you know. Frankie, anything else on the lyrics?
Just want to point out that Johnny sings this song to his 18-month-old daughter.
Oh, see, that's pretty cool. Especially with all the goddams in there. So
yeah.
the little daughter's going to have quite a
Nice
vocabulary
lullaby.
pretty soon. So it's a popular bedtime story for some Primus fans and their children. Other than that, yeah, I don't have a ton to say on the lyrics, just these little vignettes. But I do have an 1897 connection to this. Now,
Oh, God, no. Are you serious?
Mr. Dave Lefkowitz, here's the deal. I am under the impression that this album was actually recorded in 1897, so I've been trying
I
to
fully
find a
support
connection.
this theory.
Thank you, Frankie. And I've been finding news items from 1897 or historical events that connect in some way to the lyrical content. So I think I may have found in that last stanza, the bastard child who the woman couldn't control her child. He was running around. And then it said the years in the liquor have made him mild and he lays around Kalamazoo. I found a very brief article from the Kalamazoo Telegraph, July 30th, 1897. Headline, "He's not insane."
You're going to make me read?
I will read aloud to you.
No, I like to
I know
read.
you're a drum tech. I will read aloud to you. Garrett Weirs will not go to the asylum, just at present. Garrett Weirs sat in the inner office of Judge of Probate White Thursday afternoon, chewing an onion. Two physicians were trying to examine as to his sanity, but Garrett had been on a spree and was under the influence of liquor, so it was impractical to investigate his mental condition. Under the circumstances, Judge White ordered him to be locked up in jail, and it was hoped that by today he would be sober enough to proceed with the inquiry. This morning, the physicians, Drs. Adolf Hochstein and H.H. Schottberg, I think, continued the examination and recommended Weirs discharged. Judge White discharged him. Weirs doesn't seem to be quite right in his mind, but his eccentricities hardly amount to insanity.
Bastard child right there.
That's the bastard child. He's just laying around Kalamazoo
Wow.
under the influence.
And that intro sounded like my wife talking to me every single night.
He's not insane, or are you guys chewing on onions over there? What's going on, man?
I'm drunk and chewing on onions or something. I don't know. And my wife is not having it, dude.
So
I don't know about the onion part, but the other part might be legit.
I also have a cover.
Oh my God, there's a cover. Holy shit. Dave, Josh finds covers from around the world of bands playing Primus covers of these most obscure fucking Primus songs. It's amazing.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, covers of Rest in Bones.
Wow.
That's all you have to say right there. I can't believe somebody covered
Dude, anybody even attempted that one, like, gets a
Right.
gold medal.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, this cover of Kalamazoo comes from Denmark in the year 2008. Looks like a trio playing at some kind of party. I will warn you, it's rough. That's enough of that.
That just reminded me. I was texting Lur today, and I said, dude, give me any information you can on Kalamazoo. And he said to me today, the guitar lick is tied to Old Dirty Bastard.
ODB. So not sing, sing, sing. ODB.
Frankie, you got homework.
Yeah.
Wow. Cryptic
How
words
does
from
Old
Larry
Dirty
Lalonde.
Bastard figure into beep, 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 boo?
Josh, ready for the live cuts?
Ah, yes. Live cuts, Frankie. We've got 4 live cuts of Kalamazoo.
Oh
Looks
my
like,
God,
gee,
that
wow.
many? I thought there was only one.
All right. First up, we have your Brown Album Tour selections.
Oh, Brown Album Tour selections. Awesome. So
Sorry,
this is
Dave.
definitely going to be an audience recording. Brown Album Tour, it's going to be played just like the record, but it's Brain on drums, so it's bound to be amazing.
Let's see how far they push this tempo. That is so fast. The other thing is, every time we
Dave,
listen
you
to
were
these-
there that night. I remember seeing you there that night.
What show was it?
Exactly.
Well, I will say, I've said this before, when we get these live cuts, it just sounds so good compared to the record. It just sounds, well, I shouldn't say good. I should say clearer than the record, so you can hear what's going on, and it sounds like a band performing live, as opposed to whatever was going on in the studio there. That's a great one. Irving Plaza, 1998.
Irving Plaza, 1998. All right, so we've heard
God, Dave, remember this night?
Yeah.
The Dark Lights Night.
98, HBO Reverb.
Yep. You were not there. You were on the phone with Les that night.
Oh, really?
This is the Turn the Lights Down night.
Oh, I kind of remember that. This is for TV. We need some lights.
Yeah.
And Les is like, I don't want any lights at all.
That's weird.
All
So
right, Frank.
we've heard all kind of things about this night, that it was dark, that Les had a perm, but, I mean,
Oh,
the performance is absolutely stellar. Hear it for yourselves.
They made him out and laid around Kalamazoo. I got a gal and she ain't from Kalamazoo.
That one sounds pretty good, Frankie.
The sound was great that night, I think.
Brain is tight as nails on that shit, man.
Long toenails.
what time? What month was that?
God, that was the night before we went to Europe to start the Brown tour.
May 11th, 1998 is the
May
date of that
11th, and then they went to Europe and they played in Barcelona.
one. Okay. So you're absolutely
That
right.
was the
So
start of the Brown tour in Europe, was in Barcelona. Yeah.
there you go. Next one, Rochester, New York. 2000.
Rochester, New York. All right, so two things to point out. First of all, this is a soundboard.
Soya loves those.
Damn it.
Second of all, it's anti-pop era. So even though it's Brain on drums, at least from my perspective, there's kind of a different vibe to the
I
performance.
can't believe they brought this song into Antipop. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible.
What a strange one to take with you.
How many times did it happen during Antipop tour?
Just a few, just a handful.
Where's the song?
What's going on here, Frankie? They're just playing
Where's
the
the
drum thing
song?
over and over.
Where's the song?
Oh, let's try that again. Lure is really crunchy there. I like it.
Man, Brain's hi-hat is on point, Dave, right? That's like signature Brainiac on the drums right there.
Yeah.
You
Man.
can't deny, or you know it's Brain when you hear it.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Whatever,
stuff.
Les is farting around over there. Who cares? Brain's ripping, dude.
Poor Brain's playing that intro for 45 seconds waiting for him to come in, too.
And then he goes, all right, motherfuckers, here's this.
All right, last one. This is one more. This is Indianapolis 2012, which means Jay Lane. Frankie.
Jay Lane, Murat Theater, legendary show. It's the night of the deep cuts. Out of all the 3D tour shows, this is the one with the deepest cuts. So let's hear how they tackled Kalamazoo with Jay Lane.
Dave, you're only listening to Jay Lane, right?
Yeah.
Because that's all I'm listening to.
For sure.
Jay is like hitting the hi-hat punch how Jay Lane hits that punch, but it's not how Brain hits that punch.
Oh, no, it sounds totally different in terms of the beat. Like, I don't know if I can put my finger on it, but I feel like Jay, well, first of all, he hits a lot harder, but like I feel like he's a little bit like over the beat instead of behind the beat. I don't know.
Yeah. Jay is always... Well, no, Jay is actually funky in the beat.
Yeah.
Tim's behind the beat. Brain is always pushing the tempo twice as fast as it should be, and everyone has to stop after the third song and go, dude, slow the fuck down, dude. But the way that Jay is hitting the beat, the beat, it's like not the same way that Brain is playing it.
No.
Jay did not cop the lick how Brain is playing it.
Right.
And he's playing it his own way and just kind of going where he thinks it's there, but it's not the same. Not bad. I'm not saying it's wrong or bad. It's just that's all I ever listen to is the drumming.
Any last thoughts on this track, gentlemen? It's an interesting one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think in the overall, canon, it's definitely pretty unique. I mean, not necessarily that one that people are going back to a lot.
Yeah,
right.
I'm surprised, Frankie, that they brought this into the Ozfest moment.
It's quite surprising. I agree with you.
Because the Ozfest was like metal bands and hard rock bands and Limp Bizkit bands and shit. And swing tune into that set list for any night of that tour.
Ballsy.
Baffling. Yeah, you think they would do something like Cutting Town or Beef, but it was Kalamazoo.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I get to say this, Frankie. Kalamazoo, you've been tracked. Next time, get your Deliverance voice ready because we're all going to give it one of these. Come here, boy.
I'll see you at the front of the hardware store, Josh.
It's Chastising a Renegade next time on Primus Tracks. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. At Primus Tracks on Instagram and Twitter, primustrackspods@gmail.com. Primus Tracks Facebook page. I got to get used to saying that. Frankie, Soya, thanks as always. David Lefkowitz, wow.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
So much fun.
You didn't say Tim Soya is not available.
Tim Soya is at Tim Soya on Instagram, and you should definitely try to follow him and see what happens. There, I'll put that in there. That's all I got. Later days.
This podcast is too damn wild.
Vive la France, vive la France.
I got nothing.
That's it.